Well, I just wanted to add, Beth, I'm sure you're aware of this, but for our listeners out there, is more and more the science is showing that it is about the whole. And even with strawberries and even with raspberries, where they do these studies on the ORAC value, where how much of the antioxidants you're going to get in your body, they're realizing that yes, they can trap those ingredients, like Helge's saying, and put them somewhere and give these concentrated drinks and all this stuff. But your body does something with the fiber. Your body does something with the other minerals and nutrients in there that actually helps it to work better together. I mean, they've done studies where they've said if you eat a spinach salad, right? Just to kind of give it back to more of a layperson's terms. If you take a spinach salad and you add mandarin oranges to that spinach salad, you're actually going to get more iron out of the spinach for your system, because the vitamin C interacting with the iron in the spinach will actually make it more readily available. Right. So part of this thing about relationships that Helge is talking about and the soil and the plants and everything like that is it's about the whole, and it's about that. It's what, Beth, you've brought back to us time and time again. It's about everything you do is connected. Mm-hmm. Everything you do is connected, and everything you put in your body. So what's in the soil that's coming into the plant, that's in the produce that you eat, you can never get from a vitamin. You can never get from a super energized drink or something like that. That's good, but it's the actual, even the chewing of the food they're finding is that our saliva helps to break down certain things that you can get certain nutrients, and so the nutrients have to be available in the food in order for you to get that.
Right. So let's say you're growing your own vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
Now, I don't have a green thumb, and Helge, you said you're not good at it
even
either.
though you have a beautiful garden.
I do, but I have
thumb. Not green.
I don't know what it is. Every time I stick my hand in the dirt, I get like bitten or I get a rash or something, and I need help. I don't know, but
don't we all?
Yeah. Well, what can somebody do to enhance their soil to make it richer and make their vegetables, more nutritious? Is there anything, or is it just a matter of getting good soil to begin with? And are all the microorganisms there, or is it?
No, well, they're like a handful of really simple tips. One is never plant the same vegetable after you just harvest the one before. Like you don't want to do carrots on carrots on carrots, because any vegetable, any food any produce will take up a certain variety of nutrients and at a certain root depth, at a certain level of soil, right? So that's why. And besides, you're literally inviting pests to come in if they know, there's this corn patch in Beth's backyard, and it's there every year, and it never really works because we always come back. Pests are crop specific, so they don't go. The corn borer doesn't go for beets. It goes for corn until the corn is gone, and then it takes off, or until the natural forces of nature come in, and you have ladybugs, and they will kick the corn borer's butt. But so you don't want to plant the same thing over and over again. We call it crop rotation, even in your backyard. That's important. Then there's a natural method of cover cropping. So usually in winter, you want to rest the soil, who has provided well for you, hopefully. And you put a mix out, which you can buy everywhere, an organic mix of legumes, which are nitrogen fixing. They're literally taking nitrogen out of the atmosphere, out of the air, and put it on their roots. And then it breaks down at the roots if you cut them up before they flower, and that nitrogen releases into the soil and fixes the nitrogen. So it's natural nitrogen, so that's what you want in the soil. And you can feed plants a little bit with fish emulsion, for example, something that's nitrogen rich but not synthetic.
We're talking about crop rotation. That was great to get that explanation for a non-gardener, so now I kind of get it. And we talked about cover crops, and let's talk a little bit about soil, and does it actually enhance the flavor or change the flavor of foods, different types of soils?
Oh, goodness, yes. So, soil is really, it's everything, right? It's where we come from. It's what feeds us, what gives us feed for animals, what gives us clothing. Like, as a society, we're completely dependent on our soil. I would say that you can't grow a healthy society without healthy soil. And so when you dive into the flavor of soil, it's incredible. I grew up in Germany, and I remember so vividly on a vacation in Italy. That was my real first experience of the flavor of soil, where the wine that we had was from the Mount Vesuvius area, which is a volcano in Italy, and you could taste the ash. You could taste the ash in the wine. It was not added. Everything you taste in wine is just the soil profile.
That's interesting, because I've heard that, and I can taste differences in wine, but I didn't know you. So you can taste differences in other foods as well.
Well, that's Mark's territory. He
Okay.
just you can have 10 peaches, and he tells you, "Oh yeah, this one is from Lodi." How in the world? But
See, I always thought the taste of a fruit or vegetable was the genetics of it. It has to do with the soil.
Well, it has to do with both. And it has to do with, so it's not only, it's soil, it's weather, it's, it has to do with, the variety that you're talking about, the genetics of the food, but that Suncrest peach that Masamoto grows, down near Fresno is going to be different if it's grown in an environment that has a little bit cooler day, because it works best in hot days and then those warm Fresno nights. But it's got to get a certain amount of chill in the wintertime in order for that tree to go to sleep. I mean, everything. Apples. If you eat apples, as a matter of fact, perfect example is apples from Watsonville. Fuji apples from Watsonville are probably one of the worst looking Fujis you'll ever see. But taste-wise, you can match that Fuji apple from Watsonville against any Washington, any Canadian, any Fuji apple anywhere. And most people who've tasted them will tell you that Watsonville Fuji apple will have a better flavor. Now, they have foggy nights in Watsonville. They have different weather. They have different chill time. The soil is different down in that part near the Central Coast than it is in certain parts of Washington. So all of it is connected to where it actually has a difference in the flavor of the food that you eat. And all the way down to not only just is something sweeter, like maybe has a higher Brix, and is sweeter like we've talked about on our show, An Organic Conversation, but it can actually be to where Helge's talking about tasting that ash. You actually go, oh my goodness, I've eaten this type of tomato all my life, and now I'm tasting that this actually has more of a lingering aftertaste than the one that I've been used to buying that has grown. That can even happen in Marin County. In your county, one farm to the other farm, the mustard greens can taste different from two different farms.
So when you're buying produce from a conventional farm, a mass-produced farm, you're getting kind of blah. I mean, that's why those tomatoes taste so poor and mushy, because they're. Is that? I mean, partially. It's always because there's always more to the story, as you know, Beth, and as Helge knows. There's always more to the story. It's also because it could not have. There may be that it's been force fed the nutrients, so there's not the nutrients available. It could be that they're picking them too early and bringing them to market, which doesn't allow the flavor to develop. Right. Interesting thing about tomatoes: for the USDA, in order to be considered vine ripened, if there's a red spot on the non-stem end of the tomato, it's considered vine ripened, and then it can get red the rest of the way in the box. That's amazing.
So, I mean, there's so many variables in food, and so it does come down to soil, but it comes down to a lot of other things, and you can taste what each region has to offer. And
even with grasslands in Marin County, Cowgirl Creamery is a classic example. They use Strauss milk, and when the real green grass, which is right now fading slowly, but we had a wet spring, and so the green grass will give you different tasting milk than in fall. And hence the cheese will taste different in May than when you have it in November. And I can, now being 6 years with Marin Organic, I believe I can taste the difference. Absolutely.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's beautiful actually.
So we should always buy from local farmers. I mean, that's goes beyond saying, because not only does it help the local economy, it's good for our health and it's good for our taste buds.
Yes, and I would say, people say know where your food comes from. I would say even know your soil, know the soil where it comes from, because then, which is just another way of saying know where your food comes from and know your farmer. But really, it's the quality of the soil management that will define our future and your experience with your food.
I heard somewhere that it's you're supposed to rest your soil like every 7 years or something, like going on retreat. Is that?
Well, soil provides nonstop, right? So in winter, you leave it fallow, we call it. So you have a cover crop time. And Mark said during the break where you can still have legumes fixing the nitrogen, and you can still harvest the beans if you want to. So it's not, it's not that it's not in production if you live in a climate zone where that's possible. But it's good to just let the soil rest, even if you have a backyard, just to have one row where, for 5 months you don't do anything, or for 3 months, just to really let it sit there and the microbes come back and do their thing, and then you're ready again.
That's great. Well, this has been really fascinating. The time has flown, and we're almost up.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. I'm looking forward to going back into my garden with my own hands this time, and really kind of getting into it. So,
well, and Beth, if it takes wearing gloves, lots of gardener friends of mine wear gloves, and if it takes that to get your hands back in the soil, then so be it. It's one of those 3 simple steps that maybe you would recommend to somebody.
Thank you.